Tal Kadosh Boker or Bekiim Halacha 3 day 52 page 101. Yeah, Keminyan. He says over like this: Siman Chet Halacha Lamed Aleph 31. Yeah, he comes and he says like this: many Ashkenazi Jews have the custom of going about with their tzitzit displayed over their clothes. Okay, this is a halachically permissible practice, and it does not make them guilty of acting superior to others, which means that it's not haughtiness if they're going to come and put it on top, right, of their clothing. However, though, when they visit a cemetery, when visiting a cemetery, however, they must make sure to hide the tzitziot inside their clothing. Furthermore, it is incorrect for someone to walk through the streets wrapped in his talit gadol over his jacket, okay, unless it is early in the morning when everyone goes to the synagogue for shachrit. It is forbidden to purposely do things differently than the great majority of observant Jews. And you imagine right now, in the middle of this day, you go outside, it's not time for shachrit. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You have a guy walking around with a talit. You're going to say, this guy's, what's going on over here? Yeah? So what happens? He comes and he says that that's actually going to be a sur, because that's a haughtiness. Okay, 31. Maran Rishon LeZion ruled that Ashkenazi yeshiva students who display the tzitzit over their clothes are permitted to continue to practice. They cannot be accused of displaying superiority to others, meaning don't think that they're going to be, right, haughty, right, yuara, it's called. Mahari Brona, yes, 31 on the bottom, the footnote 31. Right, Mahari Brona testified that in his times, laymen did not wear talit katan over their garments in public. Only the rabbis had such a practice. If someone else would imitate the rabbi's method of dress, it would not be viewed by others favorably. If it is wrong, right, it is wrong, he contended, for someone to adapt practices that he's unknown to be an individual worthy of such a practice. Okay? Which means certain things is only by rabbis. So then it makes sense. But other things, no. So for example, today, right, wearing a hat, right? I remember somebody put on a hat, right? Ya hasra. They put it on and Allah Khadish. Yeah. So if somebody comes and they do that, there's no problem with that, because everybody now, right, wears hats, not even rabbis. You don't need to be a rabbi to wear a hat. Understand? But, right, if a person comes, right, yeah, you could be whatever you want. Yeah. So, talit gadol. A talit on the head was only the rabbis. Was only the rabbis. That was a minhag in many places, Morocco and others. Nowadays, it's a king that everyone does it, so it's different. Despite this ruling, the current practice among the Ashkenazi students is acceptable. This is because there are poskim. This is because there's poskim, including the Shulchan Aruch, who ruled that the principle of the talit should be on top of the clothing. So you're going to remember it, right? Someone who wishes to observe this halakha cannot be accused of being haughty, right, or acting improperly. In an unpublished responsum, that Rishon LeZion quoted the Yaskil Avdi, who mounted an attack on the Mishnah Berurah's ruling that one displayed the tzitziot outside. He includes those who wear the tzitziot outside of the clothing haughty, right, adding that there's no basis to rationalize the practice. That Rishon LeZion defended this practice of the Ashkenazi Jews, however, and he testified that many true scholars observe the practice of displaying it outside, right? The Ma'amar Mordechai explained that according to Maran, this is the best way to fill the mitzvah, and therefore either practice is legitimate, but it's best for the Jews to wear it inside under their clothing. Okay? Fine.
Bad or best?
Best. 32, yes. 32, Sephardic student in an Ashkenazi yeshiva. If a Sephardic yeshiva student, page 102, right? Halakha lamed bet. If a Sephardic yeshiva student is enrolled in Ashkenazi yeshiva, and all his chaverim put them outside, he may adopt the same practice. He could do so. He does not have to be different from everybody else. Once he's married and independent, then go back to the Sephardic custom and put it back inside. Okay? 32. Yeah, he says like this. This is the ruling of Maran Rishon LeZion. Right? He says this is the ruling of Rishon LeZion, Yalkut Yosef, the Or LeZion, and the Yalkut Yosef. Sorry, the Maran and the Rishon LeZion and the Or LeZion. Dot. Yalkut Yosef overruled the proper procedure for Sephardic yeshiva students to keep their tzitziot inside their clothing, even if they're going to be where the majority of Ashkenazi Jews. So it comes out that Kilu Rav Yitzchak Yosef was going against his father, right? That he Kilu to be more Sephardi. No, Rav Ovadia himself was matid. So if Rav Ovadia himself was matid, there's a heter. Put it outside, because you want to do that. All the children are going to look to the same thing, and the prohibition of what he's going to do does not apply to this issue. Therefore, the staff of the yeshivot should not demand that the Sephardic students go around and change, right? If there's a practical reason for it, such as a student lives in a secular neighborhood and he wants to reinforce it, then it would be okay, right? In the footnote on the page, Kudus explained that why the prohibition to do does not apply. This is a ruling contradiction to Maran Rishon LeZion or LeZion. It is true that the prohibition to do does not apply, but we're dealing here with a boy who feels conspicuous because he feels different. Why should he feel different than all the other boys? So as our sages taught, right? He comes and he says, one should not stand where everyone is sitting. Meaning it's Hilchot Derech Eretz. Hilchot Derech Eretz is everyone's standing, what are you sitting? Everyone's sitting, what are you standing? Some people always love to be different. You understand? But the question though is, right? It's not derech eretz. The derech eretz is you do what everybody does. Everybody's going to sit down. You sit down. No. I'm going to come and bechavana. I'm different. Oh, it's not derech eretz. Huh? The Rishon LeZion ruled based on the same principle that if a Sephardic Jew is praying in an Ashkenazi congregation where everyone stands up, all the cantor says Kaddish Yom, you should stand up. Yeah? And the Yalkut Yosef cited this ruling in bold letters. However, he seems to contradict himself. Meaning like this, I'm going to go to Ashkenazi minyan. And by the way, I do this until today. If it's a shtibul, that it's a free-for-all, then no. Yeah, then no. You don't need to. Right? A shtibul is basically where you don't need to stand up for Kaddish and Baruch Hu. Right? Why? Because there's a lot of people and everyone's there. Everyone's different. It's not that you have, but let's say, for example, you go to an Ashkenazi minyan. Okay. Yeah, and you go to an Ashkenazi minyan that, for example, they stand for Kriyat Torah. Right? Or, for example, you go to an Ashkenazi minyan, right? They stand for Kaddish and Baruch Hu. You have to stand up. Who are you now to come and sit down? Everybody's standing and you're there. No. Ani Sfaradi. Ge'eh. You say you're ge'eh, but without midot. En lecha derech eretz. Why? Al ta'amol b'shah shekulam yoshvim, ve'al teshev b'shah shekulam omdim. What does that mean? Right? What does that mean?
You're supposed to sit.
Stand up. You do nefilat if I'm standing up. That's also the Rabbi Zion. Right? What happens now? What happens now is that a person has to understand he's not supposed to be different. Right? Very important. And this Yalkut Yosef says it in bold letters. So that's why he just says it's a contradiction in Yalkut Yosef. Because Yalkut Yosef is telling you, right, that because in bold letters, stand up with them for Kaddish and Baruch Hu, and don't be different. And all of a sudden, he said, no, be different. They have all their tzitziot outside because all of them are tzitziot outside, and then they don't have. So it's wrong. 1 minute. Right? So therefore, it's wrong. Okay? Fine. So that is going to be 32. Halacha 33. Okay? People, right, who recently became observant Jews might want to display their tzitziot outside in order to place a barrier between themselves and secular society where they live. They may do so if they feel that it's helpful. Once they have established, other shiurim outside, please. Right? They may feel to do so if it's helpful. Once they have established themselves as Torah Jews, or if they move to a neighborhood where everyone is observant, then they should go back to the Sephardic customs. Meaning, sometimes you need it. You need it in order to show that you're different, in order to show that, listen, this is what it is. So therefore, to do with taking out the tzitziot, you're allowed to do it amongst the goyim. That means you could be like acting like the Ashkenazim, right? In order to show that you're going to be like them. And this is what the Rishon LeZion answered to Abal Teshuvah. So Abal Teshuvah asked him, and he says, I want to show Be'emet that I'm different from the society where I live. All the people around me, they're not religious. I want to do it. You're allowed to do it. That's what Rav Ovadia Paskin. Now, Kudio said that's right, that these are the instructions of Rishon LeZion, right, to such a person who asks for practical instructions, and the Or LeZion also ruled likewise as well.